Well, selfie sticks may be prohibited in the parks, but Disney has filed patents to use drones in their parks to do some pretty interesting things. One of which is to form maybe a flying movie screen, similar to, let's say, the mist screens used in the Fantasmic show. I think we have the pictures, or some of them at least. So this looks like a quadcopter drone with a thin porous material like polypropylene, using a rear projection screen, which is used a lot over Disney parks. This would allow air to pass through it so it doesn't interfere with the drone's flight. And there's a wide-angle mirror reflector that reflects light from a ground-based projector onto the screen, which is pretty interesting. There's also shown in some other pictures different uses for drones. So one would be to have a series of drones choreographed together to kind of operate as a marionette puppeteer with different strings coming off each one connected to a larger puppet. The pictures of Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas, which I think his body lends to this kind of movement. And then there was also another image of what looked like a fantasy creation coming together with pieces, each ostensibly being tethered or held up by a drone, which is really interesting. I mean, we haven't really seen a lot of, we've seen a lot of fun uses of drones, but not necessarily puppeteering or helping with movie projection.
It's definitely very creative. Like you said, we were talking about the Tinkerbell, potentially on the castle, and we were using swarms of drones. So they filed a patent that was basically asking for permission to have up to 50 drones simultaneously.
Which is a lot. In a swarm.
A lot, exactly. And the FAA right now hasn't responded to them filing this petition.
Yeah, I mean, the FAA does have some very prohibitive rules regarding unmanned aerial flight.
Well, think about Amazon, right? Yeah. That whole story when it came out, when Amazon tried to file a patent so that they could use drones as their delivery men.
It still could happen one day.
But you know what? It's so limiting because, for example, some of the restrictions that the FAA has when it comes to flying drones is it has to be during daytime, which, again, Amazon, for example, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for the Disney show at night. It has to be flown within eyesight. So Amazon didn't work. Disney potentially could work if the controller has it in eyesight. And then another one, though, is that it cannot fly over anybody other than the controller. And that's where I think you run into the most potential trouble when it comes to Disney because it's so densely packed.
It's also, I think it's very limiting in terms of applying the technology toward entertainment purposes, which is, this would obviously be a nighttime, or maybe not nighttime even if you're doing it in a certain way, but a sky show for sure. I mean, it's not going to work right on the ground or in like I imagine like a terrarium, but that's not going to work at all. It's a very prohibitive rule set, and I think it needs someone, with probably Disney's lawyer power to be able to have these rules changed, perhaps for everyone, probably only within park confines, I would assume. Yeah, but the rules are pretty limiting. I mean, you could fly a drone 5 feet off the ground. You could fly a drone 70 feet off the ground. The FAA would still be the controlling factor there in terms of law.
Yeah, and what we're talking about too is, again, it's commercial use. So FAA has not approved any commercial use yet of drones because I think of some of these limiting factors that we were talking about, flying over other people, flying during the daytime, and having the controllers be the only person that it can go over.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it does make sense for safety. I mean, if it's a densely packed area and maybe a drone malfunctions and falls down.
Sporting events have it, don't they? Don't sporting events now? Am I mistaken? I'm not a huge sports fan, but
sporting event person
I know I'm not either. Andrew,
I
feel like they had drones at the Super Bowl.
That's what I thought too, but I could be wrong because I wasn't paying that much attention to the Super Bowl. Super tangent, but yeah, I think it's certainly something. I mean, we've seen other aerial shows that could have potentially posed danger. For instance, there's the magic carpet ride that was in the Aladdin show, flies over most of the audience. We do have shows where people are, and outside Disney, on mini stage productions, any other parks, where there's someone suspended by wires over other people, or something heavy suspended over people. So
I think if anybody is capable of fighting with this liability issue or with the problems, it's going to be definitely Disney or Amazon or one of these, companies.
One of these very lawyered up and very wealthy companies might have to be the breaking point at this point, just because of the way the system is set up.
And who knows the technology that they could be developing in trying to do this and trying to work around those limitations.
Well, the problem is, like, there is a lot of potential. I mean, yes, there is potential for danger, but there is potential for something very interesting and entertaining and new and innovative, and a lot of times these rules are very limiting on that, and unfortunately it seems that the law, creating laws, does tend to move slower than the power of technology, and we just have to catch up and try not to be limited by that. So this patent was filed for, I believe, Florida, not yet Disneyland, California, but still we could see what happens along here. I don't know, maybe there are different rules in Florida, maybe they could make it for certain private areas of the park. There's a lot going on, but there's a lot of potential. There's also potential for flying advertisements, which I like less. Audience, what do you think of the drone show potential and the proposals set forth? Let us know below in the comments, and please like and subscribe for more.